We have a very busy show today here on Kutztown Live. Coming up later in this half hour, we're going to sit down with Thomas Appelbach, who is the director at the Lehigh Valley Office of Veterans Affairs. And it just so happens that Mr. Appelbach also went to Kutztown University with a May 2017 graduation with a master's in public administration. Appelbach, a veteran himself, served for 12 years on active duty in the U.S. Air Force, followed by the Pennsylvania Army National Guard and the U.S. Army Reserve. He was deployed to Camp Victory, Iraq from 04 to 05, retired from military service in 06. He now daily, as part of his job, helps veterans and their families in the pursuit of federal, state, and county benefits to which they must be entitled. Appelbach says every day is a new adventure, and he credits KU and our wonderful Veteran Service Office for helping him get to where he is today. So we're going to talk to him later this half hour, but first, our reoccurring monthly guest. Well, it's monthly during the summer, but during the regular season, it'll be bi-weekly. Lori from the Northeast Berks County Chamber of Commerce, and her special guest today, Greg Schweitzer of Stress Reduction Resources in West Lawn. So I'm going to kick it over now to Lori, this final show of the summer. How did summer go for you, Lori?
We're glad to be here today, and we have an exciting schedule of summer activities, networking activities. Yeah, I'd love to. Tomorrow from 5 to 7, we will be conducting a ribbon cutting and networking mixer at Advocate Insurance in Muhlenberg Township. Advocate Insurance was recently purchased by Rothenberger Insurance.
Okay.
Ron Rothenberger has been a longtime member of our Northeast Berks Chamber of Commerce, so we're excited to be involved in celebrating his new venture. The next week, right here in the downtown, we have a ribbon cutting scheduled for the Grab and Go Mart, which arrived on the main street a few months ago. And then on August 27th, which is a Sunday, we'll be celebrating Chamber Day at the Reading Fight and Fills, and we will have sponsors there and chamber guests, and we look forward to having a great time with Anthony Pignetti at the Reading Fight and Fills. In mid-September, we have another networking event just outside of Kutztown in the Maxatawny Township area with Hostal Custom Embroidery, Silk Screening, and Promotional Items. And Debbie Berger, the owner, will be hosting a mixer. Before I get to Greg Schweitzer, our guest today, I just want to focus on something very exciting, which is our Shining Star Awards. Our fourth annual Shining Star event will be held at the end of September on Thursday evening, September 28th, from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. here locally at the Berkeley Golf Club. This year, we welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. G. Terry Madonna, who is a political pundit and director of the Center for Politics and Public Affairs, a professor of public affairs, and the director of the Franklin and Marshall College Poll. So he's obviously from F&M in Lancaster County. Our keynote speaker is sponsored by Antonavage Farbiars in Hamburg. So I direct our listeners to northeastberkschamber.com, to the events tab, and then directly to the Shining Star Awards, where you can reserve your seats. You can nominate one of our chamber members or yourself for one of the awards and get more information about our annual event. So please go to our website at northeastberkschamber.com. Today we have an exciting guest. Greg Schweitzer is one of our newer members of the Northeast Berks Chamber. And it's exciting because I first met Greg at the 9 O'Clock Club, which is a monthly professional development program organized by Kim Davis of KD Consulting at the Chamber. And he was one of our speakers. And during the course of that presentation, I learned about Greg's interaction with some very visible thought leaders from today in terms of meditation and some other natural and holistic practices. Welcome, Greg. How are you?
Wow, it's nice to be here. I'm doing great.
Tell us about your business, how you got started, and I know that you started out in another field and then you transitioned into meditation. Tell us about that.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's interesting to be here because, I'm grateful to be here because I love Kutztown, and I really got started in this field while I was living in Kutztown. It was 40 years ago, actually 43 years ago. In 1974, I was an industrial engineer. I was working in the Lehigh Valley at Kraft Foods, and I had graduated from college just a few years earlier from Drexel University in Philadelphia, And I was pretty naive. I was the first college graduate in my family, and I thought that once I had a college degree, life was going to be a bowl of cherries. And boy, was I disappointed. Because every day I would leave work as this industrial engineer, and every day I would think to myself, is this why I went to college? And, and like I said, I was living right here in Kutztown, and after a few years of doing that, somebody said to me, my friend said to me, why don't you come to this lecture that's being given tonight about meditation? So I decided to go with him, and when I did, the teacher of the introduction class, and those are things that I do myself today, this teacher said, there's something missing in most people's lives. And he said, what's missing isn't out there in the world. He said, what's missing is inside. So it really got my attention, and I decided to take the course. I mean, it sounded interesting, and I thought, I've got nothing to lose, I was under a lot of stress. There had been a death in my family, just a month before I went to the introduction class. So my life was really not where I thought it was going to be.
Did you find benefit from it when you started?
Immediately, really just in the very first day, I felt really happy. First day I learned to meditate. And I just kept doing it every day, and within a week, I was looking forward to coming home from work and sitting down to meditate. Because, in that meditation, we're experiencing levels of rest that are deeper than sleep. And in that deep state of rest that we reach, stress just begins to melt away. So all the tension and fatigue from the day just goes in meditation. And so I was feeling happier after work. I'd meditate, and I felt like I had a whole new day ahead of me.
I think that's more true today than ever with adults and even with young people who have very active and busy schedules.
Yeah. Everybody could benefit from what I teach today. I mean, so after I was meditating for about a couple of years, somebody at the local meditation center said, you could become a teacher of this. So I thought, really? I always thought of myself as an engineer. But I decided to do it. I took a long training program. It took me about a year of study, and I've been teaching meditation ever since.
And where did you study, Greg?
Gosh, I've studied in New York. I've studied in Europe. I've studied in India. What I learned in 1974 was a practice known as transcendental meditation that was taught by an international organization, and I taught for them then for 17 years before sort of growing up and moving out of the house and going out on my own. My business today is called Stress Reduction Resources. And so I teach today what I call effortless meditation. And people come to introduction classes. As you know, I have one next week at the Chamber.
Yes, you do. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So when you were studying, were you involved at all with the Deepak Chopra Center, which was in the Boston area at the time? Is that correct?
Yeah, actually I was. Dr. Chopra, I met him when I was at a meditation course in Washington, D.C., and my wife was there with me, and we had only been married about a year, and she said, I'd love to work with somebody like that. And I said, well, gee, my good friend is an executive director at his center in Massachusetts. He was a clinical director of an Ayurvedic health center in Massachusetts, and I called my friend, and he said, hey, well, we'll come on up, we'll talk, we'll see if we can fit you in some way. And he did, so I worked with Dr. Chopra at the center. I was teaching meditation there, and also director of guest services. So
that's amazing. Is your wife also involved in this field?
Yeah, she is. She's a counselor. She does a lot of holistic counseling. At one point, she had been a family educator in the drug and alcohol prevention field, working at one of the largest treatment centers in the country.
Now, what would you say as you meet with clients and you conduct workshops, what are the most common, maybe the top 2 or 3 common causes of stress in people's lives today?
Well, so many, I've taught in a number of taught meditation courses in a number of corporations, and the workplace is extremely stressful. People today, job security is a thing of the past. And that was something that sort of existed in my time.
Yeah.
When I was a young man. People in those days worked for a corporation for 40 years. Today, if they work there 5 years, they think that's a long time. And so job insecurity, that's a major one. Just the fact that people don't sleep well. They're under a lot of stress just because they're tired. And one of the reasons they're tired is because there is so much stress and tension.
Fortunately, I'm not afflicted by sleep deprivation, but I have many friends who cannot sleep.
Me too.
Who say they sleep 3 hours a night,
Yeah.
which isn't good.
Not at all.
For your health, not at
Yeah,
all.
well, Lori, when I learned to meditate, and I was 26 years old at the time, within just a couple weeks of my doing it, I realized that one of the reasons I was feeling so much better was I realized I just had so much more energy. And then I realized how tired I was before I started to do this. I never thought of myself as being that tired, but once I started to experience this deep period of rest every day, because I did it every day. Dr. Chopra says this works like magic, effortless meditation. He said, it works like magic, but then he says it's not magic. He says, because you have to do it.
Exactly.
He says you do it, and then the results are magical. So I just kept doing it and was growing in energy and vitality and changed my life.
You said something interesting where meditation is almost like a deeper even than sleep.
Right.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
We better start meditating right now, Mike.
Yeah, there you go. So you can get some of your sleep-deprived friends into
That's
meditation
right.
maybe, so they can catch up a little bit.
There's an interesting statistic, and that is cortisol is a major stress
Sure.
hormone. Cortisol. And so when we're under stress, we're producing a lot of cortisol, and cortisol is produced by the adrenal glands. So adrenaline and cortisol are our major stress hormones. And if we just sit with our eyes closed resting, cortisol levels drop about 2%. Because just what we're sitting with our eyes closed resting, we start to calm down a little bit. After a good night's sleep, cortisol levels drop about 10%. 10% after a good night's sleep. During this meditation practice, they drop about 30%.
Wow.
That's major.
30%. One of the best referral sources I've ever had for new clients has come from a gynecologist in the Lehigh Valley, Dr. Leonetti. Dr. Leonetti's now retired, but I've taught hundreds of her patients to meditate, and because she recognizes how stress is impacting their health. And
That was very forward thinking of that doctor.
Well,
sure.
The world needs a lot more doctors like her. Yeah, because meditation is a self-care practice. We're doing it for ourselves. We're sitting down. We don't need any equipment. You don't have to drive. It's like one client of mine said, I don't have to drive across town to get to a gym to do this.
Right.
Exactly.
I could do this in my car.
And so often we put ourselves last, so we need to move that up to first, the first position.
We have to take care of ourselves.
So set the scene a little bit for when you have a client come. Is it sort of like a doctor's type setting where you are counseling them, or how does that work?
Well, Mike, the first step is that people come to an introduction class.
Okay.
So the introduction.
So it's like a class, okay.
Yeah, a class. It's sort of a classroom type setting.
Okay.
Okay. So in other words, it's a group of people might come to an introduction class.
Okay.
And there they hear about what effortless meditation is and why people do it. They find out, what's involved. In other words, I talk about some of the scientific research behind meditation. I talk about steps to learn, give stories about what has happened to people who take the course. And so once they hear that, if they're interested in pursuing it, they come back for 6 more classes.
I got you.
6 more classes. And one of those classes is a private class, a 1 hour of individual instruction. There's actually 10 hours of instruction in the entire 7 classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So
good.
people do it sitting in a chair, just like we're sitting in a chair. I don't have to sit on the floor to meditate. And when we meditate, we just sit and close our eyes, and we sit there with our eyes closed, and then we have this mental technique that we practice. We're not making noise. We're not chanting Om or anything like that. if somebody walked in here and we were meditating, they might wonder why we're sitting here with our eyes closed.
Okay.
But we're not. Other than that, nothing looks unusual to anybody. We're just sitting here with our eyes closed. But while we're doing that, we're experiencing that deep state of rest. Our mind starts to get quiet. And our mind and our body are intimately connected. So when our mind gets quiet during meditation, our body starts to rest. And all the healing that comes from meditation comes from that deep state of rest.
Well, it sounds very appealing. And for our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about what Greg does, he is offering a free introduction class at the Northeast Berks Chamber office at 110 West Main Street, Kutztown, on Friday, August 25th at 9:15 a.m. For more information about the class or the chamber, contact us at 610-683-8860. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And you said that class is free?
It's free, and
Wow.
it's this month.
I know some
Yes.
people that might be interested in that, so I will
Great.
spread the word.
Send
Yeah.
them our way.
Yeah, next Friday.
Real quick before we go, you want to share do you have a website or any way that people can contact you?
Yeah, I do have a website. The website is stressreductionresources.com.
Okay.
That or effortlessmeditation.net. Either one would reach me.
Okay.
My phone number is 610-670-6700.
Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you. A really fascinating guest, and really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
Mike.
This is Kutztown Live. We'll be right back with our interview with Thomas Appelbach right after this on Kutztown Live.
Are you writing a lab report, a short story, an essay? What about a research paper? Lucky for you, Kutztown University has a writing center. The KU Writing Center provides one-on-one conferences for anyone at KU, from freshmen to grad students, from English majors to future biologists. If you need help starting a paper, we'll brainstorm together. If you already have a draft, we'll provide feedback on focus, organization, development, mechanics, whatever you want.
I always struggle with APA format, and my writing tutor answered all of my questions. They were really helpful.
Finished writing my paper, but I decided to take it over to the writing center just to have someone look over it. When I left, I didn't just have a better sounding paper, I learned some great tips on how to improve my writing.
For more information, visit our website at www.kutztown.edu/writing center. Call us at 610-683-4733 or send us an email at writingcenter@kutztown.edu or stop by the Writing Center in room 132 Old Main.
The University Writing Center now has new hours to accommodate more students. Many requests have been received for later and longer afternoon and evening hours. Therefore, the center will now be open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 5, Friday from 10 to 4, and Monday and Wednesday evenings from 6 to 9 p.m.
This is Officer Riz from Reading Police Department. If you have your wipers on due to inclement weather, you must turn on your headlights. If you don't follow this law, you could be fined. So remember, wipers on, headlights on. It's the law. To learn more about traffic safety, visit justdrivepa.com.
Brought to you by PennDOT and this station.